let's just get full of sass and talk some trash. Hey pals, Alicia here. I hope you are doing well. And if you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. Today, I'm gonna do the anti-TBR book tag, which is all about talking trash, throwing some shade, talking about all the books that I never plan to read. This book tag was created by Nicole and Her Books, and I was tagged to do this tag by Jaylen at the bar and the Bookcase. And if you haven't checked out Jaylen yet, I highly encourage that you do. He is one of my new favorite booktubers out there, and I'm so thrilled to get sassy and do this tag. So in this tag, there are 9 bookish questions that's all talking about books that I have no interest in reading. So it's funny because when I heard about this tag, I'm like, well, why is that interesting? But it actually is. It helps you kind of learn about the person's reading tastes a little bit more by seeing what they choose to avoid reading. So without further ado, let's just dive in and talk some trash. So question 1, what is a popular book that everyone loves but you have no interest in reading? So I feel like there's probably lots of like new releases or like booktube darlings out there that I have no interest in reading. Like I'm not really a big YA reader, and YA is what's like really huge on booktube, but a classic book that I know is beloved that I have no personal interest in reading is Dune by Frank Herbert. And this is coming around again because of the movie adaptation coming out. And you know what? I'll probably watch the movie, but I have zero interest in reading Dune. This is a tome of a book, and just reading about dusty landscapes and sandworms and coveted spice mixes is I'm just not into it. If you love Dune, I love that for you. I just personally will never and have no interest in reading Dune. Question 2, a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. And to be honest, there are a lot. I feel like when I was in school, I did read a lot of classics and I got a lot out of learning that in school, but I feel like now in my life as it is, I don't think that outside of a classroom setting or outside of like a book club setting, I could ever see myself just like choosing to sit down and read some classics. That's just like not what I feel like reading right now. So like I have no interest in reading Moby Dick, no interest in reading about whales and whaling. I have no interest in reading Don Quixote. I have no interest in reading The Count of Monte Cristo. I feel like there's just lots that I'm not into it. Life's too short. Question 3, an author that you have no interest in reading from. So again, I'm sure there's lots. I'm sure there's some that I haven't even thought of, but definitely some popular authors that I have no interest in reading. David Foster Wallace is one of them. Infinite Jest is not on my bucket list TBR. I will never read that book and I have no interest in reading it. Haruki Murakami has a huge backlist of works that I don't think I will ever read. And this will come up later too, because the one genre that I can't handle is magical realism. Like I can't do it. I'll talk about it later. I can't. But Haruki Murakami is like a renowned magical realism author. So I don't think that me and him will ever be pals. A problematic author that you have no interest in reading. So this is a really interesting one because I feel like I am one of those people who cannot separate the art from the artist. So when I hear that an author is problematic, I immediately have no interest in reading their works. And I know there are lots of conversations about this out there, about that and like the difference in finding the lines between, but I get immediately turned off when I hear that somebody is a bad person. So that's just my opinion. So yeah, so I will obviously never read or support J.K. Rowling ever again. I will never read Sherman Alexie because he is an abuser. So I feel like it's part of my job as a reader to kind of be aware of who I'm reading. And obviously I don't know everything, but the more I learn, I really do take that information to heart. So yeah, I have a hard time separating the art from the artist. An author that you have read a couple of times but have decided that their books are not for you. And I think I am finally ready to break up with Paul Trombley. I previously have read A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Trombley, and that was like okay, but I didn't love it. And then I read A Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Trombley, and that I really was just like not here for. So I feel like my enjoyment of his books are going downhill, and I just now at this point am not excited to pick up anything by him, because I don't hate his writing and I don't hate his writing style, but I just have such lukewarm feelings about what I have read from him. So I don't want to go into a book with that kind of mindset. I want to feel like I'm gonna love it instead of expecting to just feel very meh about it. So I think I'm done with Paul Trombley. So a genre that you have no interest in, or a genre that you have tried to read and cannot get into. So I feel like the easy ones for this are romance. I'm not a huge romance person, but every once in a while I have read one that has made me, you know, question me saying I hate it. So I'm willing to try with that. High fantasy, so I sometimes have a hard time getting into high fantasy. I don't really think I'm in the point in my life where I'm ready to commit to some like giant series of like fantasy work. Like again, going back to the other question, I don't know if for example, I'll ever get into like Brandon Sanderson. It's just an author that I don't think I'm ready to commit to at this point in my life. But in my heart of hearts, the genre that I can't do is magical realism. I don't know what it is, but to me, magical realism just feels like some sort of cheat where you are writing a book where nothing happens. It's like your way of cheating the system so that you can write an entire story, but it is actually nothing. And I don't know. I know that, please, if you love magical realism, please tell me why and tell me how to do it. But as soon as I start, I just get so mad because it's not happening, but it is happening, but it's not happening. It makes me so mad, and I just can't do it. I'm very sorry if you love it, but I cannot. A book you bought but will never read. So I don't really buy books with the intention of never reading them, but I feel like there are, there's probably a book or two on my shelf that I bought and then have been sitting there for a really long time, and maybe I have lost interest in reading it, but I wouldn't say that I have decided I'm never gonna read this book. So like A Little Life, for example, is one. I have this book on my shelf, and it feels like a huge commitment. It's a tome of a book. It feels like a huge commitment for what I know is going to be a payoff that's just like absolutely abusing me and just leaving me on the ground to die. So it seems like it's a lot of work to hurt yourself. So I don't know if I'm into that, but that's the only one I can really think of. Oh, another one is maybe House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I have this on my shelf, but I I'm really just scared of it for some reason. I kind of feel like I'm gonna be the person that goes to get into this tome of an experience of a book and then just get really mad about it. I can just see myself poring over my kitchen table at this book like, God, this fucking book, I hate it so much. So I don't know, but again, I kind of want to try and prove myself wrong about it. But those are 2 books on my shelf that I feel like maybe I'll never read, but never say never, never say never. A series you have no interest in reading or have since DNF'd. So I think I am just generally really bad at reading series. I have a ton of like half finished, 3/4 finished series on my roster, but one that I think I am going to DNF for eternity is the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. I read Annihilation, and when I finished Annihilation, I had so many feelings from that book. Like, I couldn't tell if I loved it, I couldn't tell if I hated it, but it was like I had such a profound reaction to that book that I needed to go on to the next one. It really had me reacting to it. So I was like, I gotta get into the second one. And then the second one kind of was the same but different. And at the end of that book, I felt exactly the same. I had this such a profound reaction of confusion and anger and like, what's going on, what's happening, and then at that point, I just felt like I was being manipulated. and then I immediately got mad. So where my reaction to the first one was like, I gotta go on and figure out. The second one, I was like, you've done it again, and now I'm pissed. So I don't know. Now it's been like 2 years since I read Authority. So I don't know if I will ever go into acceptance. I don't know if I'm ready for acceptance. And then finally, the last question is a new release that you have no interest in reading. So I'm sure there's lots. Just one in particular that I have no interest in reading is Mallory by Josh Malerman. This is the sequel to Bird Box, and Bird Box is one of my most hated ever books of all time. So I definitely have no interest in continuing on in that series. Also, I have absolutely nothing against Stephen King, but I don't even know where to start with Stephen King. He just writes so much. And so I think he had like 2 books come out this year. Definitely If It Bleeds. The Institute may have come out last year, but fairly recently. I don't know if I'll ever read those. I'm so overwhelmed by his backlist that, whatever. Get out of here, Stephen King. Other than that, nothing really comes to mind. I feel like there are lots of books that I'm just fairly open to. Nothing that I have a strong, visceral reaction to other than Mallory, perhaps. So there you have it. There's a whole ton of books that I'm never gonna read. Let me know if you have read any of these books and if you think I'm making a huge mistake, because I'm willing to be convinced. I'm willing to be swayed. I don't feel extremely strongly about any of these, except for maybe like the problematic authors. I don't think you could convince me to read them. But otherwise, yeah, read what you want. Don't read what you don't want. So take care out there, pals. Stay safe, stay spooky, and until next time, see you, pals!